The desert stretched endlessly before me, its dunes glowing under the dying light of the sun. I rode slowly, not as a conqueror, not as a poet whose words echo across kingdoms, but as a man carrying the weight of promises he once made and forgot. O home of memories, do you still remember me? The boy who once ran through your halls, laughing with dreams too young to understand their gravity, whispering silent vows that the walls alone could hear, hoping they would survive the years, even if my footsteps did not. I am Fazza, they call me, a writer, a poet, a prince of storms and sands. But here, before your door, all titles fall away. I am only a man seeking forgiveness, only a heart returning to the place where it first learned to beat for another. I remember her hands, delicate yet strong, how they guided my restless heart and steadied my wandering soul. I remember the nights she waited, lamp in hand, eyes wide with silent hope, her prayers filling the empty rooms with a quiet kind of eternity. How many sunsets have passed while I chased shadows outside, ignoring the warmth she built for me. Yet here I am, returning, not as a hero or a prince, but as the man who finally knows the cost of leaving love behind. O walls, do you remember her laughter, the gentle music that once floated through these rooms? Do you remember the poems I wrote in silence, hoping only she would read them with her eyes, hoping they would carry the essence of my love, even when I could not be present? I dismount, my boots pressing into the cold sand, and place my hand on the gate. It is more than wood. It is memory. It is time folded into a threshold. It is the echo of a heart that never forgot the woman who first made it whole. The night deepens, yet the stars burn like witnesses. Each flicker recalls her eyes, soft yet unyielding, gentle yet commanding. I have crossed deserts, storms and distant lands, yet the courage required to stand here before her door surpasses all victories I have ever claimed. O beloved, do you hear me? Do you know that I have returned, not to demand, not to take, but to offer the remnants of a heart that has wandered and learned, that has aged yet never ceased to love you? I kneel briefly, sand cold beneath my knees, and whisper into the wind, I am here. Even after years of silence, even after storms of my own making, I am here. A gentle breeze stirs the courtyard, and I am transported to mornings we shared, to the sunlight on her hair, to the cadence of her soft voice, to the quiet poetry she inspired in every corner of this home. Love is not measured in grand gestures, but in quiet mornings, in patience, in forgiveness. I have wandered far, seeking the world, that the world is hollow without the walls that first cradled my heart. I lift my eyes to the gate, and for the first time in years, I feel hope trembling within me. Perhaps she waits, perhaps the walls themselves carry my prayer, waiting for the moment when I return to the home that first knew the rhythm of my heart and the devotion of my soul. The sun had just begun its climb, spilling gold across the desert, yet the courtyard remained quiet, holding its breath as if waiting for my return. I remembered how she used to rise before the world, her hands moving with grace and patience, turning the smallest corners of our home into sanctuaries of love. And I, blinded by ambition and pride, had wandered into the world, leaving behind the only home that mattered, the one she built inside my heart. I pressed my hand against the gate, feeling the rough wood beneath my palm, and let my whispers float into the silence. O beloved, do you remember me? Do you remember the boy who carved his dreams into your walls, hoping one day you would read them with the eyes of the heart that loved him? The desert wind carried my words through the courtyard, around the jasmine, across the walls that had held her patience for years. Even if she never opens the door, even if her eyes never meet mine, I am here. I have returned, not as a prince, not as a poet, but as a man who has finally learned the weight and value of love, the courage it takes to come back to where the heart belongs. I kneel for a moment, the sand cold beneath my knees, and feel the pulse of memory beneath my hand, the echo of a love that never faded, a devotion that no years or storms could erase. The courtyard whispers back to me, not with words, but with echoes of laughter once alive within its walls. I remember her voice. It was the sound of water over stones, gentle yet strong, washing away the burdens of my restless soul. Here, once she welcomed me with eyes bright as dawn, her hands carrying bread warm from the oven, her lips carrying prayers whispered into the sky. I was her falcon, soaring far into battles and deserts, but always she was the horizon I returned to. How could I have forgotten? How could I have let distance grow roots in our soil of love? Now I walk upon the same stones we laid together, and each step trembles with guilt and yearning. I see her shadow in the doorway, or maybe it is only memory mocking me. Yet I speak into the silence. O beloved, the desert has no mercy, but your home was always an oasis. Will you let me drink once more from the well of your forgiveness? The walls tell stories she never spoke aloud. They hold secrets. The nights she waited by the lamp, the mornings she prayed for my safety, the afternoons she sat by the window, her heart torn between hope and despair. I press my palm against the bricks, and it feels warm, as though her love still lingers in every stone. And I remember she never asked me for riches, never asked me for kingdoms, never asked me for fame. She asked me only for time, for presence, for the small tenderness of my hand resting in hers. I gave her palaces of words, but she craved the cottage of my silence beside her. And today, standing in her home, I realize that love is not the thunder of victories, but the quiet rain that nourishes unseen roots. It is not the crown upon my head, but the tear she wipes from my face, without letting the world see. So I whisper into the air, beloved, if you can hear me, know that I have laid down the sword of pride. I have returned not to claim, but to bow, not to be celebrated, but to seek the simple mercy of your gaze. Night descends slowly, and the desert stars light their ancient lamp. The air grows cooler, carrying the fragrance of jasmine still blooming by her window. I sit beneath that window, the same place where once I recited verses for her, where she laughed softly and told me that even poets fall silent when faced with true love. Now silence is my only language. The falcon within me bows its wings, the rider dismounts, the prince kneels in dust, because love is not about conquest. It is about surrender. I think of the years between us, the distance carved by my absence, the shadows that must have visited her heart. Did she hate me? Did she forget me? Or did she guard my name like a flame in her chest, protecting it from every storm? I raise my eyes to the stars and speak to them, for perhaps they still watch over her. Tell her, O constellations, that I am not here as a king, not as a ruler of men, but as the boy who once promised her forever, and failed. I have come barefoot upon the sands of regret, carrying nothing but my heart in my hands. If she opens her door, I will know mercy. If she does not, I will still kneel here until the dawn, because love is not about being received, it is about being true. Even when it is too late, the night deepened, and the silence grew heavier than the desert sky. I remained seated outside her door, the sand cold beneath me, yet my chest burned with the fire of memories. I remembered the first time I brought her here, when this house was new, when every stone carried the promise of tomorrow. Her laughter filled the air like a prayer, answered. Her footsteps rang like music upon the courtyard tiles. She made this place a kingdom without gold, a palace built not with marble, but with tenderness. And I let ambition devour my days. I let distance steal my nights, until this home became only a shadow behind me. But the truth is written in my soul. No palace, no desert conquest, no crown of the world can erase the ache of an empty home. And home was never the walls in was. Tonight I breathe the same air she once breathed, and I wonder if she feels the weight of my return. Does her heart stir behind the silence of those walls, or has she sealed every window, every memory against the man who left her waiting? I bow my head, and the desert stars lean closer, as though listening to the words I have never spoken. Beloved, I am sorry, sorry for every night you counted stars alone, sorry for every dawn you prayed without my voice beside yours, sorry for every promise I let drift away with the wind. A tear slips down into the sand, and I do not wipe it away, for it belongs to her, to the years she gave me, to the love that endured even when I did not. If she never opens the door, let the sand cover me here, let the desert make me part of its story. For there is no throne, no crown, no victory greater than the moment I chose to kneel at the threshold of her forgotten home. Dawn began to rise, its light creeping across the horizon like a shy guest. The stars dimmed, but my vigil did not end. All night I had remained before her door, a wanderer finally home, a falcon finally weary of the skies. And then, the faint sound of footsteps. Not the wind, not imagination, but the soft rhythm of a heart still alive within these walls. My own breath stopped, as though the desert itself was listening with me. The door creaked, slowly, hesitantly, as though time itself resisted the moment. And there she stood, not as the young bride of my memory, but as a woman etched with patience, carved with strength, crowned with years of waiting. Her eyes met mine, eyes that once held oceans, now deep with storms endured alone. And in that gaze, I saw both love and sorrow, both longing and restraint, both welcome and warning. I wanted to speak, to let rivers of apology flood the silence, but no words came. How could words carry the weight of years? How could verses mend what absence had broken? So I did the only thing left to me. I bowed, my forehead touched the earth, the dust of her threshold marking me with truth. And I whispered, not as a prince, not as a poet, not as a man of the world, but as the boy who had once promised forever. Forgive. For a long moment, she stood, silent as the desert before rain, and then, her hand weathered yet soft, reached toward mine. She did not speak. She did not need to. In her touch was the answer, the return of breath to a drowning soul, the release of chains I had carried too long. Tears blurred my vision, but I saw her smile, faint, fragile yet real. And in that smile, the desert bloomed. The falcon took flight again, not into battle, not into distance, but into the skies of her forgiveness.